Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the listeners of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. Welcome to episode 88, where we're going to be traveling back in time. We are not going to be in the year 2024. No, we're going to be exploring the history of anime and manga. That's right, we're going to be going back to the year of 2014, back in my day, episode 1. We're not sure if it's going to be a mainstay, but me and Jason we're both old fucks, and we wanted to reminisce some of the old ass anime that we have watched in our past, and just to see if things back then hold up to this day. So old man Jason, I think he's just gotten out of his slumber.
Will, we gotta go back. We gotta go back. What's up?
Yeah. So just to sort of like preface this, there wasn't really a particular reason why we picked 2014. I think when we were because we had this discussion about talking about stuff from yesteryear, and I was like, well, why don't we just make it easy? Let's just go back 10 years, go back one decade, and see how things were back then. We didn't realize how much of a banger the year 2014 was.
Spoiler alert for for real life, real time, right? But before we get into that, though, you might be surprised to be like, well, what is this thing called Back in My Day? Just like how I think last podcast season will introduce the anime iceberg. I think for every podcast season, there is probably a high likelihood that we'll try to insert something that is in terms of like an ongoing segment to see kind of either our reception or how we feel about it, to just kind of spice things up, keep it new and fresh,
We've definitely like run the well dry in terms of like doing like genre analyses. Like we can't keep talking about like horror and
a lot of homework, bro. That's a lot of homework, and we're kind of like can't do all of it all the time.
So essentially, like what we wanted to do was, why don't we go back to the year 2014 and see what shows were like back then? Turns out we had our work cut out for us because we actually watched the majority of these shows. We just didn't remember or realize that a lot of these shows debuted that year. And we're going to be revealing a lot of these bangers as we talk about the year 2014. So we're not going to we're not going to talk about everything in one go. We're just going to do things, step by step, season by season, and then we can, sort of pick apart, how the year went for that time, and also what we remember about it, and if there's any shows from that year that we wanted to re-highlight, I suppose.
Before we get into that, though, I think we should talk about maybe like the ethos of why this segment came to be. Because, to be fair, if you are a very diligent listener, and we hope all of you are, Will, every year, would do an anime retrospective of, that preceding year. That prior year. So you might be asking, well, isn't this kind of just like that, but like even further back? And you're actually essentially right. But in this case, we not only want to look at it from a time frame of like, wow, remember those days? That's why I call it Back in My Day, or a time capsule kind of thing. But also because there are a lot of good shows that probably still look fucking fantastic.
Yeah, that was essentially like how I wanted to approach it, like initially, where it was like, I wanted to see if shows that came out 10 years ago still look just as fantastic as if something came out this year. Yeah. And we had some pretty surprising results. So we may continue doing this. We might not do it as like every year. It's like, oh, what happened in 2015? We could do 2015, 16, so on, to the point where we start talking about things like fucking Eurocamp as like a classic show.
Yeah, and I think the other thing also is, at least with some inside baseball between Will and I, is like we can't go too far back, because things like being available on streaming service or being able to access certain information or news archives is going to be progressively more difficult the more further back we get. But then we can also go into the more recent years, because our retrospective would have covered those years. So there is only a limited, like I would guess, like a decade and a half that we can now kind of like use this format. But we also want to say the whole point of this also is to celebrate. Sometimes it would be, oh, this was a banger year, which for 2014, Back in My Day 1, we're starting off with a huge-ass banger. But maybe other years we will spend more on, actually, there weren't a lot of great shows, but crazy news stories. Or there weren't a lot of crazy news stories, but there were amazing shows. So let's talk about those.
It could be also like massive developments within anime and manga.
In terms of trend, or like, oh, now that we have the 10-year hindsight, we can now see that was kind of like when isekais kind of blew up, or that's when, remember Mugen Train? At some point, you and I, maybe not on a back in my day segment, but you and I will be like, bro, remember Mugen Train during COVID? Shit, right? That was good. Like, at some point, someone is going to have that conversation with another person or online, right?
It's not like crazy to think back on like how things were, right? I mean, let's really set the scene here and show you how old things are really in the world of anime and manga. Crunchyroll was founded in 2006, right? There are some listeners that weren't even born then. So it's a very storied entertainment medium, and therefore it would be sad for us to forget about the shit that came like a long time ago, because there are a lot of shows that we still celebrate to this day.
Yeah.
And we wanted to re-highlight those.
And to be fair to every single human being that is a weeb, we always like to see what is the latest and greatest and hottest and hypest show. But due to lack of time, investment, resources...
Not to mention sometimes new shows can also be pretty mid.
Yep. We forget about, like diamonds in the rough. We forget about shows that we put on hold, aka now these years, me. I have like a shit ton of on hold shows. Some of them legitimately from 2014. Or we look back and being like, bro, that was hype as shit. And let's find an excuse to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do with news, any of the above, shows, all of the above.
Yeah. So we do have like a couple sort of like links to like score progressions on my anime list for that particular year. We can use those as reference, but sort of like at a glance. Overall, the sort of performance per season of 2014, you kind of notice that things back then, in terms of how much stuff was produced, how scores were season to season, are not that different from what we've seen in the past couple of years. Like this year, last year, 2022, you find that on average, each season has around 40 to 45 series, some of them maybe even 55 series. And then the winter and summer scores are a bit on the low side in terms of the average, and spring and fall tend to be higher.
Yeah,
it's the same thing here. So just to sort of break down season by season, winter 2014 had a total of 42 shows, averaging at around a 6.72. Now that does sound terrible, and it is terrible because there was only one show that was scored above an 8, and that was the second season of Silver Spoon, which was a banger season, a sequel, by the way.
Just to let you know, dear listeners, how crazy that is to have only 1/8 that entire anime season.
Not only that, but you also had the worst series of the whole year, which was Pupa.
Do you know how many 8s there are currently as of recording for spring 2024, Will?
I think there's 6 or 7. 7. I think there's 7.
You're wrong. Like, really wrong.
Okay, there's Sound Euphonium, there's Demon Slayer, there is Kaiju number 8, there's Mushoku Tensei, that's 4.
If you times it by 3,
5. There's 20 wait.
As of recording, Sound Euphonium has an 8.59.
59.
Konosuba 3 has an 8.48. Jobless Reincarnation Season 2 Part 2 has an 8.34. Eurocamp has an 8.31.
There's 12 shows above an 8.
Demon Slayer has an 8.26. Kaiju number 8 has 8.25. Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night has an 8.17. Spice and Wolf Remake 8.14.
Yo, Girls Band Crying Jellyfish are both above an 8.
Black Butler 8.10. Girls Band Cry 8.07. Data Live 5 8.02. And rounding out is Slime Isekai 8.01, with technically My Hero Academia being the number 11 spot with 7.92. So just this season alone, dude,
12 8s.
12 8s. Like what? Like what?
I mean, again, spring. First of all, this is spring, right? If we looked at winter 2024, on the other hand,
5
8s. 5 8s.
Okay.
So again,
Actually, yeah, we should compare apple to apple, right?
But it runs the same trend, right? Like 5 8s in winter 2024, but 12 8s for spring. Yeah, you see how it kind of it's the ebb and flow, the roller coaster, right?
Yeah, I mean, it always is like an on-off season, right?
But
one.
Yeah, let's just say that
one?
that year was really not great in terms of score, but there were also a lot of 7s and a lot of 6s. So that season alone, you had shows like Noragami, Space Dandy, Hosuki's Cool-Headedness.
We're talking winter, right?
Winter 2014. Yeah,
Yep.
you also had Nisekoi, you had D-Frag, you had Saki, the Mahjong one. I believe you also engaged the unidentified, and then I keep forgetting what the English name for this one is. It's the student council one, Setokai Yakindomo.
I don't think it has an English name.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah. But, like, if you were to say all those shows to me, I would remember them very fondly.
Yeah.
And also, I actually remember watching a lot of those shows. A lot.
I like Noragami. I like Cool-Headedness. I like Space Dandy. I watched a bit of Nisekoi. It looks fucking awesome. It actually, granted, it's Shaft, right? But it looks fantastic. Just the opening scene of, like, the kid running down the field, and, like, there's that little, like, background monologue speech of the girl from Nisekoi.
Oh, with the locket?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Very, very beautiful. And then it gets a little bit weird afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how the year started. It wasn't very, very good, but there were, like, memorable series. Then you jump into spring 2014. And this is probably when things get a little bit like, whoa, I did not realize how crazy a year 2014 was.
Will, sorry to cut you off. I just looked at the continuing TV series. Hunter x Hunter 2011 was still airing at this moment. Oh my god.
Yep. One Piece
Holy
was airing.
shit.
Naruto Shippuden was airing.
But One Piece with
Space Brothers was airing.
Oh my god, damn. We're walking down memory lane, right?
Yeah.
And okay, look, we just rattled off actually quite a lot of awesome shows. And this is like both kind of nostalgic and also an opportunity for us to talk about some of these shows as well, right? We also want to do that. But man, are you telling me like winter? Like, oh my god, like even Space Dandy is just like you get like the perfect mixture of almost every single genre being covered.
Yep.
In winter already.
High school comedy in Setokai Yakundomo. You had some sort of weird like harem school thing with Nisekoi. You had a slice of life and mythology based Cool-Headedness. You had the space adventures of Space Dandy. You also had your shonen actions with Noragami. And then you had the ultimate slice of life, which is season 2 of Silver Spoon. You then jump over to spring 2014, and this is probably where things get like pretty nuts, because a lot of these things I did not realize that come out that year. So you had the second season of Mushishi. Ping Pong the Animation aired 2014 in spring. Haikyuu first started spring 2014. Stardust Crusaders JoJo Part 3 came out 2014. No Game No Life aired spring 2014. Fairy Tail aired spring 2014.
Knights of Sidonia, man.
Yeah.
Polygon Pictures. That was like
Irregular at Magic High School aired spring 2014. All these classic shows. I don't know how classic Irregular is, but I mean, dude, like
I mean, right now they're airing their 5th season, right? Is it number 5?
And also the fact that it has over 1 million people, 1 million members on my anime list, right? It makes it insanely popular. I mean, like, in terms of popularity, that makes it 139. That's insane, right? So that year, 55 that season, 55 shows came out. Average score of 6.9. Not the best, but still okay. But the majority of shows, there was actually more than half of the shows there being above a 7, meaning that it was as close to a coin flip. You could just pick something and you would probably enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
We then jumped down to summer 2014. Not as many bangers, but some pretty well-known names. You got Blue Spring Ride, you got Free Eternal Summer, you got Nozaki-kun, that monthly girls Nozaki-kun, Barakamon, second season of Space Dandy. That's when like shows really went back to back to back. You also had Book of Circus for Black Butler, Terran Resonance,
Tokyo Ghoul.
My beloved Tokyo Ghoul aired summer 2014. Very weird season for them to actually air, but that's when it happened. Akamiga Kill came out that time as well. Alt Noah Zero. You also had I don't think you enjoyed it too much, but Nobunaga Concerto. Yeah, let's not talk about that one. Yeah. So again,
I'm sorry, did you say something? I was so bored by
score wise, still like averaging to be like okay. There were 4 shows that are above an 8, and so on.
Right.
The crazy year though, the crazy season though, was fall 2014. Whilst there were only 45 shows compared to 55 in spring, there were 7 8s and 23 shows that were between a 7 and a 7.99, meaning that 2/3 of that season was filled with good anime. I'm just going to list a few of these, right? Your Lie in April, Parasite the Maxim, Shirobako, Mushishi, second season, Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, second season of Yowamushi Pedal, Yona of the Dawn, Magic Kaido 1412, 7 Deadly Sins, World Trigger, second season of Log Horizon, Fruits of Grisaya, Amagi Brilliant Park, Psychopaths 2, Cross Ange.
There you go. I was waiting for that. There you go.
So many good shows that came. There was also like I guess there was another like cult-ish classic of the I Can't Understand My Husband.
Right. One of like probably like the most well-known anime shorts. Right.
Yeah, I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying. That one came out in fall 2014 as well. So we just went over like a bunch of stuff that legitimately are deemed classics in their own right, but we also didn't realize they all came out at that same year. This is also the same year, by the way, that Naruto the manga officially finished.
Yeah, so we were looking at a lot of news stories as well. Like I went on Anime News Network, like we always do, and like look at archives of 2014, and I just like glanced through like a lot of headlines, and there was like Naruto ends serialization, Bleach ends serialization, or announcing ends of serialization of all these like classic shows. So it is almost so crazy and appropriate that 2014 was our first, back in my days, like year that we chose.
Yeah.
And we kind of did it by accident or like, you know, serendipitous kind of decision, right?
Mal also did it. Mal does like an end of year sort of like mega poll in terms of like collating everybody's top 5 TV anime of that particular year. So 2014.
Wait, hold on. Like as in all like the aggregate of every single Mal user, right?
No, this is on Anime News Network.
Oh, Anime News Network, like the top 5 shows of that year.
Yeah.
All right, let me guess. I actually don't know. I need to think real quick. Your Lie in April is on there.
No, Your Lie in April doesn't even crack the top 10.
Fuck. All right. I'm just gonna like browse through. Okay, it has to be Tokyo Ghoul.
4th.
Ooh. Norigami?
Norigami is not top 10, but higher than Your Lie in April.
Damn, now I feel like when I did the anime corner segment with you. Holy shit. Haikyuu has to be.
Haikyuu was...
Ping Pong?
Haikyuu and Ping Pong were not top 10.
Holy shit. Okay. Okay, just tell me then at this point.
At number 5 was Space Dandy Season 1.
That's surprising, considering how wacky and quirky it is. I wouldn't consider it like a top 5.
This was, I mean, to be fair, like 2014 too. So maybe it was like that time like so weird that it was fresh in people's memories, and therefore they voted for it then. As you mentioned, Tokyo Ghoul, number 4.
Right.
Number 3 was No Game No Life.
Mm.
Number 2 was Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. And number 1 was Parasite the Maxim.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
I would argue Parasite like if when you list out those 5, I'm not surprised that like, oh yeah, that makes sense, that checks out. But Parasite the Maxim, I'm actually a little bit surprised. Because the manga, if you consider even at the time, the manga is quite old.
But I mean, at the same time, though, Parasite the Maxim was sick.
I watched it. I loved it.
Was really, really good.
I really like it.
But then when you're also I think it's also like when you talk about things like Your Lie in April, Haikyuu, and all that. I feel like those shows gained more and more appreciation as time went by. So you could now say for certainty that things like Haikyuu and Your Lie in April were definitely more globally acclaimed than Parasite the Maxim.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we also have to bear in mind, not only for the two of us, but also for listeners as well, is these scores are not an isolated time at 2014. This is 2024 looking back at animes that air. So there's a high, in fact, I would almost say it's almost 100% certainty that the score is different over time in 10 years because more people consumed Haikyuu, more people finished this.
And also because there's more Haikyuu.
Exactly, right? So those things like change and alter the perception of certain shows at that moment that maybe has gained an appreciation or a cult following over time, right? But what a fucking crazy stacked year, bro.
Yeah. I mean the fact that Shirobako, which we both really, really like, isn't even like top 30, top 40. It was very weird too. I mean, like Barakamon is just outside the top 10. I think it's 11th.
So I'm just looking at, these 4 seasons, right? And then just scrolling through, and if I remember correctly, we don't see a lot of CG. Okay, Knights of Sidonia, I understand,
that's
right?
One, right? Because that one was Polygon Pictures.
Yeah, so all of it is CG. But when we talk about like integration of bad CGI or like Golden Kamui Bear or like, was it Villainous Level 99 with the carriage in its opening scene?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of
like Witch and the Beast as well.
Witch and the Beast with the crows, right? I don't remember a lot of these good shows having that kind of need to use 3D like CG.
I think aesthetically they had their own shit down. Like if you think about like shows like Ping Pong the Animation, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Mushishi, No Game No Life. Like you don't even need to like think that hard and visually see like how those shows presented itself, right?
Psycho-Pass did use CGI though.
A little bit. I think there was a little bit
like
there
was a little bit in
there was a little bit in Terror and Resonance as well. But like you just know aesthetically how certain shows look, like Barakamon with its calligraphy, the space craziness of Space Dandy, the dull kind of darkness that comes with Black Butler. Each had its own kind of unique style. Not insanely unique, but you just knew, like when you think that show, you can already picture how the style is, how the voice acting is done, how the general color palette is meshed with like the background and like the costume and character designs. You even had like Nobunaga Concerto, which, okay, love or hate, you can't deny that it looks visually unique as well.
Definitely visually unique. I'll give you that, right?
And then of course you had Unlimited Blade Works, you had Your Lie in April, and you also had Parasite the Maxim. Those things all looked very, very unique. I didn't watch World Trigger, but
that's a lot to consume in order to catch up to World Trigger at this point, right?
Yeah. So loads of hype shows. I mean, like I collated it. So things like Noragami, Nisekoi, No Game No Life, Haikyuu, Irregular at Magic High School, Fairy Tail, which was like the rebrand like Series 2, JoJo 3, Tokyo Ghoul, Akime ga Kill, Terror and Resonance, Sword Art Online 2, Your Lie in April, Seven Deadly Sins, Parasite the Maxim, Fate, Unlimited Blade Works. All these shows and sequels premiered in that year, and all of them have above 1 million members on my anime list. So it was a fantastic year for anime classics. We're going to say classics because 10 years is a long fucking time, a whole decade, right? Then you also had like cult favorites too, like World Trigger, Cross Ange, Ping Pong, Sailor Moon Crystal, Shirobako. There's probably a few more there too.
I wouldn't say Sailor Moon Crystal is cult favorite. I think it's a pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal, but in terms of like just numbers wise.
I understand what you're trying to say for sure. I would agree. But I would say like of all the shows that would get quote unquote the Brotherhood treatment and Sailor Moon getting that and its cultural impact on anime and manga, or I would say its cultural impact on Japan.
It came back to life, right? Because it was kind of like...
And it was good. It was fucking good.
They had a whole licensing issue going on for a long, long time.
And they had fillers. It was really bad fillers, too.
Then they also had that live-action debacle as well. I forgot which was the holding company that held the IP for Sailor Moon. And then that's why it just lay dormant for a long, long time.
Yeah, you did that for Iceberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look. The 2014, though, it's really difficult when I try to envision if I were to give you two animes, let's just say, and say one is in 2024 and one was in 2014. Do you think you'll be able to tell which one is which? Like as a hypothetical.
Like visually?
Yes.
Probably not. And like that's the thing too. So like I would say that if I watch stuff like JoJo or SAO2 or even like Tokyo Ghoul, the kind of style that they go for, especially when it comes to shonen action, is not that different from what you see as shonen action nowadays. Yes, you might have like more theatrical, like bombastic monsters and like different kinds of action scenes. Like nothing's going to compare to, that sword fight in Demon Slayer, right? But generally, I don't think that there was a whole lot of difference, and I think that's kind of where we see that plateau in the advancements of animation without going into AI and CGI.
Or without cutting corners due to budget or production constraints, right? I agree. Because of course you can say, well, then this anime did this in 2014 that had CGI, Jason. I'm sure. Okay, no problem. But overall, if I would just go by my recollection, it was very much a traditional art drawing style, frame by frame. Maybe they used computers. It makes sense that they would use stylists and computers, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the Golden Kamui Bear integration or like millions of other really bad, laughable 3D integration, I don't really recall a lot of crap. And again, that Shirobako scene where they did use 3D CG does not count because that was actually the premise of that episode. Okay.
Yes.
So that doesn't count, listeners. Okay.
Let's go into more sort of like observations of the year as well. I wanted to maybe start off with the studio observations and then go into like other overall observations because I actually thought this was like kind of insane. So that year was a pretty good year for Madhouse because they had 4 series that released that year. They had Irregular of Magic High School, No Game No Life. They had this other show called Hanayamata, which actually was decent. It was like a 7.5, 7.6. And they also released Parasite the Maxim. The following year, they would release Death Parade, Overlord, as well as One Punch Man. So this was like when Madhouse was still cranking it out.
The fuck is Hanayamata? What the fuck is this?
Yeah. Never heard of it.
No, I've never heard of it. Holy shit.
But it is a decent show.
7.31, and with 111,000 members, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah. Madhouse was doing a lot of stuff back then. What was even crazier, though, that the most hardworking studio of that season, A1 Pictures.
That's fucking crazy. When I saw that bullet point, holy shit.
Yeah. 11 shows. It averaged out to be like a 6.97 across the board. So they were still doing some pretty good stuff, but they had some stinkers because not everything was going to hit. Bones was 7 productions.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, this was around the time when MAPPA was starting to get onto the scene. So they only had 2 series that came out that year. They, at the time, they were only barely 3 years old.
Yeah,
because they were founded in 2011, but this was also kind of like seeing the changing of the guard between Madhouse and MAPPA and that storied history that they have with the 2 studios.
I mean, this is also the time when Yuasa was doing Ping Pong, but wasn't doing Science Saru.
Actually, funny enough, one of the MAPPA productions they were working on at the time, this was a continuing series, right? Hajime no Ippo was done by both Madhouse and MAPPA.
I mean, they both are intertwined, right? Nowadays, you would look back on MAPPA being like, it's essentially everyone moved from Madhouse to MAPPA.
Yeah. The 2 series that MAPPA released that year were Terror in Resonance and Rage of Bahamut Genesis.
Okay, so Rage of Bahamut Genesis is an extremely interesting show because it's one of those shows where it has no right to actually be as good as it is. Have you heard of Rage of Bahamut?
Yes.
I think it's based on a video game.
Yeah.
Or a mobile game or something like that. And there is like no fucking good reason why the anime is like a very good 8.5 or 8 show.
It was a digital collectible card battle game developed by Cygames and published by DNA back in 2011.
Like what? But then at the same time, if you look at like even the poster, I think it's the Afro guy. Mm-hmm. It's like the most distinctive look. Like that, it reminds me a little bit of like a space dandy kind of look.
Yes, yeah. So 7.64, 415,000 members.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that is almost like an exception to the rule of how did you make this anime out of nothing and have it be that successful?
I mean, I don't know how popular the game was. I mean, it was...
I don't think it was that popular.
Well, actually, it was the number one title for the top grossing charts for both Google Play US and the App Store for US.
Holy shit. Okay, I didn't know that.
So actually, it was wildly successful.
Okay, I take it back. I didn't care about mobile games at that moment. Yeah.
I mean, did anyone really? Because at the time, like, there weren't a whole lot of games. It's not
I
the
wouldn't
same.
say gacha was a big deal, like, outside of Japan, maybe.
Well, it's not the same as now talking about like Fate Go,
right?
Or what's that other one that's
Genshin Impact?
Yeah, Genshin Impact,
Honkai Star Rail,
yeah,
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes, we're waiting for that sponsorship, Raid.
we'll catch it.
Everybody gets sponsored.
We'll shill. We'll shill for it.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
But yeah, so like, what was actually really insane was that A1 was fucking working. They worked like fucking hard that season, that year. Like, just to pull up some names, right? So for spring, for winter, they had worked on, and this is not like fully their own capacities. Some of them are going to be like co-productions. They worked on Silver Spoon, season 2, and also I don't know what this one was called. It's World Conquest Zvezda Plot. 146,000 members and 7.04.
What for? What year?
Winter.
I mean, for what season? Sorry,
winter 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, and then afterwards, I think in spring they had a hand in Fairy Tail. They also worked on this thing called Ryu Gajo. Nanana's Buried Treasure. Yeah, they worked on a lot of stuff.
So when we talk about 2014, I think it is also important to note of Knights of Sidonia, because if I look at Polygon Pictures and their catalog of shows, only Knights of Sidonia onwards did they really have like their first show. There were like 4 other.
I mean, Ajin came out in 2016,
right?
Yeah, so that was like later.
So you could argue, because technically on my anime list there was 4 other shows that they were a part of. But it was like, what? The highest was like 348 members, and it was not available in terms of rating. So technically, Knights of Sidonia being 232,000 members, 7.63. That was really Polygon Pictures' first showing.
And what's even more interesting is when the studio was established as well. 1983.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They're old as fuck. But that also then means that they essentially worked on a lot of CGI for a bunch of other shows. Maybe not credited, but definitely
like middleman or like outsourcing before outsourcing was really a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely. You would say that Knights of Sidonia was what really put them on the map, because afterwards they got Blame, the movie, they got Ajin, they did Godzilla. They also, what else have they done?
I remember watching it like for the first time, because when I watched Knights of Sidonia, when I dropped the show for the first time, of many times I tried to like finish it, it was really weird experience, because you have to understand that up to that point, my exposure to...
Oh, shit.
What?
Idolmaster this season is done by Polygon Pictures.
Oh, really?
Idolmaster Shiny Colors. I mean, it's a 6.3. So
hey, it's shiny to me, I guess. It's 6.3. What, 6 point what?
6.30.
Oh, okay. But I don't know. Have you seen Knights of Sidonia?
No, but I know enough about it where it's like more infamous than famous.
It's one of the only 6s I have ever given in like my entire like anime catalog career.
Which is kind of insane because actually Sidonia is a pretty respectable 7.63.
I think one of the reasons was if you think about Knights of Sidonia compared to the look of literally every other anime that was available at the time, it's like really hard to process. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
like this is even before Ajin. Like everything else is like more hand drawn kind of thing, and it's just like here's Knights of Sidonia. I was just like, what is this? This is weird, and I guess that's why I got really turned off by it.
I might get around to watching it at some point just to see how it really looks. Because personally, for me, like I don't mind the Polygon Pictures aesthetic. I mean, that's why I liked Ajin.
I don't mind it as much, but it does irk me a bit, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, is this with consideration for works done by Orange as well?
At the time, no. Because Studio Orange convinced me that 3D anime was possible, essentially. I know that's a really, like, shitty thing to say about Polygon Pictures, but you have to understand when I first saw 3D CG, and like, complete, like, all the way through in Knights of Sidonia, I thought Knights of Sidonia was, like, the ugliest show ever, and it looked so stilted, and it looked a bit laggy. I was like, what the fuck is this show?
And then you waited 3 years and you got Land of Lustrous.
And then I was convinced otherwise. Yeah.
I mean, for all our criticisms of Beastars, it also looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Dragon Stampede.
And funny enough, when I now look at random footages of first of Night of Sidonia, so the one that I gave a 6 out of 10, it was more acceptable. Or when I looked at Blaine or Ajin, it was like, oh, okay, I was more okay with it. But like, I guess it was the trauma, the shock of seeing it for the first time. It really bothered me, like, majorly.
Well, it's a good thing we don't have to recommend Next to Sidonia to our listeners. So yeah, generally, like, this was a year where a lot of cult classics, a lot of like actual mainstays and favorites aired. There were a few other observations. Well, what I noticed was that like it was around this time when like the single Cour system was becoming more prevalent. A lot of series like in the early 2010s, even like late 2000s, were a bit more long running. So you had like double Cour seasons. You had stuff that was running for like 100 episodes, 500 episodes. Like long running series like Naruto Shippuden, like you said, right? Hunter x Hunter 2011, One Piece. Even things like Hajime no Ippo was running a bit longer. Space Brothers, Kill la Kill was running during that time as well, and that was also a double Cour.
Yeah, and this is, to my knowledge, Gainax / Trigger's like second big showing after Gurren Lagann. And it is like the single Cour system, I never really put much thought into it, if that makes any sense. Because again, like I always associated anime not by the season, but like almost like serialization. Like the One Piece, it's on. Dragon Ball Z is on every Saturday night for like years.
Yeah, I mean, this was also a year when we started seeing like like you mentioned, right? You're talking about like long running series that still ran for year after year after year.
Didn't you watch A Lull in the Sea?
Yes,
and like loved it to bits.
Yes, I did not realize that was also 2014.
I didn't. I was just looking at it now.
Good find. But yeah, so 2014 for winter had over 40 shows, like 45 shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
The year before that, winter 2013, only had 30. The year before that, winter 2012, only had 20.
That's insane.
So,
especially when you include like children's shows and stuff like that.
This is the time when you still had like your Bleaches running, your Hunter x Hunters, your Full Metal Alchemist was still running, I think, at that time. Because it aired 2009 and it had like 60 to 70 episodes. So it might have like
When was Brotherhood?
2009.
Okay.
So it might have been running to like 2011, something like that. So you had like long running series at that time that was like going past year after year after year. But then you started seeing like fewer and fewer of those long running series. This is when you started seeing more adaptations becoming the norm.
Yeah, because if I go by just off the dome, right? There's only 2 variations of anime that would have aired around that time. You get the long-running, tried and true, like Saturday cartoons or Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or One Piece and Yu-Gi-Oh, so on and so forth. And then on the other side, you get like really zany, out of the like left field, either anime originals or just like wacky shit.
Yeah.
Because we're talking ping pong. We're talking like a lot of shows that are anime original. Kill la Kill.
Yep.
That though, like even Space Dandy is like out of this world, literally, and in terms of how it looks.
There was definitely a lot more like risk and like freedom of creativity with those shows. Not to say that it doesn't exist now, but this was also a year when like you don't just make shows about ninjas. You don't make shows about killing monsters and ghosts. You don't just follow the tried and true shonen action archetype. You did have other series
or kid shows, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's not to say it became more adult oriented, but I think they started realizing that the audience is getting older, and so therefore now maybe there's a time to start reintroducing some more adult themes. Because don't forget, like in the early 2000s, late 1990s, that's when you also had shit like Samurai Champloo. You also had Serial Experiments Lane.
Yep.
You had
but those are either all avant-garde or anime originals. Whereas I would argue in 2014 you can see like the early beginnings of we can actually make an anime, have it technically lose money, and still profit from the IP.
So you don't have to like try and go the art house route, right? You can make something that is more popular, just not like a shonen action.
Right.
I mean, shit. Like Your Lie in April, arguably was one of the most popular series that came out that year. Right?
Yeah.
No shonen action. It's just a lot of sadness, right?
And
Violence.
music.
Yeah.
There's no violence.
Violins.
Okay, fair enough. That checks out, guys.
Yeah, she woke up one day and chose violins.
Over violent.
Yes. The other things that also was like noticeable too was that it wasn't a very good year for anime movies.
Really?
Yeah.
How bad are we talking, man?
Over the whole year, there were only 2 movies that scored above an 8.
Holy fuck. Is there any way for me to guess without looking? Like, is there any way? Because I have no idea.
One of them, I believe, is a Ghibli movie. It is a Ghibli movie.
Shit. Oh, if I get this wrong, I'll feel like a fucking idiot. Is it like...
We wouldn't be, but it's like...
Is it Ponyo?
No, Ponyo came out before that. Ponyo came out in 2008.
Really? Holy shit.
This one's one of the... I mean, like, I wouldn't think of it immediately if I was thinking...
Poppy Hill?
No. I can reveal it.
The little people?
No.
The mousy people? No. Okay, what is it?
It's about a girl.
The Neko one?
When Marnie was there.
What is that?
Yeah. See?
What is that?
You don't know shit.
Wait,
Marnie.
Wait. When Marnie, Marnie?
Yep.
The fuck is this?
The
fuck is this?
Yep. It's a psychodrama by Studio Ghibli.
What? Okay, I mean, sure. I mean,
Takes place in Sapporo, Hokkaido.
Sure. I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Gross 36 million.
Oh.
Off of a 10 million budget.
Yeah, but still, like, I mean, I guess Spirited Away. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm like doing like mental arithmetics in my mind, right?
Yeah.
But do you think like
to be fair, it wasn't directed by Miyazaki. It was done by Hiromasa Yonebayashi.
Oh, was it? Was this like the weird in between period where like the son either didn't want to do it or
yeah, I think so.
is trying to be convinced or wanted to step down, but had like a producer role because he was a good producer, I think, or at least people say he was. Right?
Yeah, this guy only worked on. Okay, funny enough, again we have to talk about Serial Experiments Lane because this guy also did the key animation for that. So don't know why we've been talking a lot about Lane recently.
Well, why don't we stay in our lane and focus on 2014? You know what I'm saying?
Fuck the show.
I love that show.
The other movie that came out that year that also scored above an 8 was literally the movie is called Detective Conan Movie 18 because there's been so many fucking movies they just decided to number them.
They just get lazy.
Yeah, I mean, again though, like I say they're above 8s, they're not even that highly rated. Barney was an 8.04 and Detective Conan Movie 18 was an 8.06. Not a good year for anime movies.
I'm trying to remember what I was doing in 2014 because I think that was like that weird lull where I didn't really watch a lot of anime at the time.
For me, it was I just graduated and I got my first job. So, yeah, I also wasn't really watching a whole lot of anime then. Again, like all the shows that we talked about just now, right? Like Shirobako, Ping Pong, Your Lie in April, Parasite the Maxim. Oh, okay, besides Your Lie in April. I didn't watch those until like 4 or 5 years ago.
And this is like way before, or was this like after Netflix started like Netflix exclusive stuff?
Netflix had not started doing exclusive stuff yet. In fact, I don't even think Netflix had a whole lot of anime on their catalog.
Because if
I didn't have a Crunchyroll account.
I
then
think Violet Evergarden and No Game No Life Zero, I remember being like one of the earliest like Netflix exclusive thing.
Yeah, but No Game No Life Zero came out 2017.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't 2014 is what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So this was before Netflix was like, yo, guys, maybe we should do this anime thing.
Yeah, I mean that might have been it. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of anime on 2014 Netflix, as I recall. They had Naruto.
I mean, Funimation is a thing back then, right?
Yeah.
So and now it's not. So clearly, like those are different times, man.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing too. It's like a lot of these shows are classics, but I don't think I've watched any of those that year. Right? Like Noragami, No Game No Life, Haikyuu, Fairy Tail, Tokyo Ghoul, JoJo, and all that. Like I only really knew about Tokyo Ghoul 2018.
I watched, I guess, like things like Knights of Sidonia. So it wasn't like I gave it up completely, but rather than having like 5 or 6 shows in rotation, I wasn't really watching anime religiously. And this was like, if we even exclude the times when we do it for the podcast, right? Like in this in-between era, when I started getting back into anime, I didn't really watch a lot.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned about the whole Netflix and whether they had a whole lot of anime and manga, a lot of anime on there, because that was also the year that Japan did a major piracy crackdown.
Yes.
So, coincide, right? Like, I guess now that they're cracking down on these websites, Netflix saw an opportunity, was like, we should get in on this manga. And now, like, you could say that Netflix is a major player in anime streaming.
Well, yeah, but that was Japan only, right?
True.
Like we also have to factor in like local versus international, at least from like a Japan perspective.
But then as well, right? Like, no, a lot of those piracy sites were also out in the open, not just for Japan. Like they basically wanted to shut down like studios,
like the root of it.
Yeah,
root A, if you will.
Yes. Let's not talk about that shit.
It wasn't in 2014, so we can't.
So yeah, I mean, this was probably around the time when like anime streaming was like really, really, really growing. I mean, think about like the fact that 2014 we didn't even have the Crunchyroll Awards yet.
I don't think we even have access to VPNs yet.
No, I mean the Crunchyroll Awards. The most recent one was the 7th edition.
Huh, I see.
See, like that's what I mean. Like in terms of like anime streaming, it wasn't that big back then, which might explain why a lot of the stuff that came out that year, not a whole lot of people saw overseas. I mean, that's probably why I only knew about like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure like 2016, 2017.
I'm trying to see if I have one of these shows on DVD, because that will be hilarious. And then
if there was to be a show that you can get on Blu-ray, I would probably pick Unlimited.
I don't think Blu-ray was available.
PS3 had Blu-ray.
Okay. Was that also HD DVD era when they were
Blu-ray
fighting?
Technology came out in 2005.
No, but when was like the format wars between HD DVD and Blu-ray?
Oh, that was like late 2000s. Yeah, HD DVD was. I remember seeing those. I don't remember ever.
Because I was invested in HD DVD because I had an Xbox.
HD DVD discontinued. It released 2006, but discontinued 2008. So it literally ran for 1 year, 11 months, and 28 days.
Damn.
So yeah, that was the era of the format wars. So yeah, Blu-ray was not at that point then like the mainstay in terms of like when it comes to physical media. I mean, yes, you still had DVD, but let's be real. Like, if you're gonna buy stuff, and almost every player now, like you wanted, literally, people just bought PS3s because they wanted a Blu-ray player.
I remember when DVD region codes was a big issue for me.
Yep.
Like, I had to come home and then be like, oh, that video game console that is in the States, when I go back, cannot play all these DVDs. Fuck.
Actually, you just reminded me. I remember, like, when I first got my GameCube, I got one of those GameCubes that had an actual button at the back.
Hey, so that technically is a bit a little bit sus, bro.
No, they were sold like widely. Like you can get them anywhere. Like,
I know because I have one, or at least my sister has one. But yeah,
what color was her GameCube?
The normal color.
Mine was the indigo blue.
Oh, okay.
Because they had orange, they had silver.
Yeah, the one that we had was the purple.
The
OG one, the first
indigo,
one.
The indigo, yeah.
But man, like, it's such a weird year, right? Because for whatever reason, this year had one of the worst shows I think ever created in the pantheon of anime, done none other than Studio Dean, called Pupa.
Yeah, 3.29.
Which is like, and I don't know if I've ever watched an actual episode and sat through it. And I don't really want to.
No.
But I know enough through osmosis or heard its infamous nature that, like, it just sounds like foul.
The thing is, you started the year with the worst anime possible.
And it's Studio Dean. Like, I don't get it. Like, regardless of how we feel about Studio Dean, right?
Yeah.
Like, back then or now, if it's like, why would you make Pupa? Like, Studio Dean, because I would argue in 2014, Studio Dean, I would say, is still pretty dope of a studio.
At the time, they did Is This a Zombie of the Dead, Sankaria, they did Log Horizon.
All the undead stuff, yeah, sure, okay. I guess someone be like, yeah, that makes sense with Pupa, right?
Yeah, but then also, like, later on, they did Konosuba, they did Hellgirl, they also did Hazuki's Cool-Headedness Season 2. I mean, they had some
There's a lot of, like, demonic evil stuff, actually.
To be fair, this is also the same studio that did the Junji Ito collection. So, is it that crazy? They would do some real bad horror?
No. The issue I have with Pupa versus, like, the Junji Ito collection is, one is just a bad show, and one is a horrendous show.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of the subject matter, like, it's, like, revolting. And this is someone who watches a lot of horror and, like, loves Junji Ito body horror stuff, has Uzumaki Tomie and Gyo, right? Hardcover.
Actually, just looking at some of the screenshots for Pupa, this does look like a show that came out 2014. It looks awful. It does not look. It doesn't look like it would age at all.
Like, all of it, every aspect of it is like, why? Like, I don't understand. And then when you put in the Studio Dean, like, name, it's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't think Studio Dean did a whole lot that year.
Maybe they got so ashamed. They got so embarrassed.
That year, they did some of the stuff I can't pronounce. Mashimase Lodoso Senki Sorete Oshino. Like, I don't know what that is. Samurai Jam, Log Horizon Season 2. Always Super Radical Gag Family, Sakura Trick. Yeah, that was a terrible year for
Do you want to know something interesting about 2014 now that I'm looking through it? And maybe, like, this is when Hori-san to Miyamura-kun was made, which is a 6-episode fan-funded OVA
Oh, I remember. I've seen this.
Known,
I recognize this. Yeah.
which later turned out to be actually quite decent. I remember watching it, and then being like, "Oh, that was kind of cute story." And then now we obviously have Horimiya, and obviously we have Horimiya Peace, and the manga done by Hero. But back then, it was people forget that, including myself, every once in a while, that Horimiya that we know today, it was like both the manga and the anime had like a brotherhood treatment.
Yeah.
Both of them, which is kind of wild to me. So
2014 was a weird year.
It's kind of like a very defining year, right?
Almost. I mean, like, would you say it's the most pivotal year in anime? Probably not, but it's definitely up there. Because this is like literally the birth of like some of the series that people still love to this day, right? I mean, let's be real. The first 2 parts of JoJo sucked, but JoJo 3, Stern's Crusaders came out that year. Parasite the Maxim came out that year. Unlimited Blade Works came out that year, and that's what restored the faith in Fate series, the Fate Stay Night series. No Game No Life came out that year, right? Sword Art Online Season 2 was absolutely terrible and made everybody hate the series, and then you had to wait a couple years for Alicization to come out. Psycho Pass was doing really well that year. Akame ga Kill, all right? Flawed, but entertaining.
Like, it's crazy that in 2014, the shows that are being made are also, like, not cookie cutter. Like, if I'm thinking about, like, spring 2014 versus spring 2024, for example, which obviously spring 2024 is right now, I go, oh, sequel, isekai, shonen action, blah, 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 right? Or, remake of something that was in Being Spice and Wolf or Black Butler, right?
There weren't a whole lot of sequels during that year.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, spring 2014, one of the highest rated shows is Ping Pong the Animation. Like, what?
Yeah, if you were just to go by Mal's stats, the top 10 shows by Mal's score were Mushishi Next Passage Part 2.
Which is like an odd show to be that outstanding.
And then the second place was Mushishi Next Passage Part 1.
Right.
Like, that's how popular it was.
Like, you and I both love Mushishi.
Oh, well, we love it, yeah.
But if you're telling me
slow.
that is the MVP of that moment in time, I'll be like, you're fucking kidding me, right?
Your Life in April came third with 8.64. Ping Pong, 8.62 was fourth. Then Haikyuu with 8.4. The score differential is just massive there. Barakamon, 6th. Parasite the Maxim, 7th. 8th was Initial D Final Stage, 8.29. And then it was a tie for 9th with Shirobako and Silver Spoon Season 2.
So let's talk about some of these shows, Will. Is there any show that, if you were to, like, extract from this year, that you would really convince people to watch?
I mean, obviously...
Besides the obvious picks, or if you want to go for that
the
one.
obvious picks would be, like, Ping Pong, Haikyuu, Parasite the Maxim. But then, at the same time, it's like, you had Shirobako that year. Right? The 2 parts of the second season of Mushishi were number 1 and number 2. July and April, I think, if you want a good cry fest, then you can recommend that one. I mean, Initial D is going to be good there anyway because it's Initial D.
So I have one that I would like to mention, and it is in spring 2014 by Brains Base, based on a 4-koma manga. Mal scores 7.52, and it is called 1 Week Friends.
I thought for a minute you were going to be doing the other one, which was the Kawaii Complex Guide to Manners and Hospital Behavior, because that was also...
That one's really good too, but I've mentioned that before. But 1 Week Friends is a show...
Ishukan Friends, right? That's
yes.
It. Yeah, that's it.
I think 1 Week Friends is a show that...
Wow, 7.52, membership 317. That's more than a cult. That's a classic there, yeah.
But it's a very weird show because every episode is this girl who has a 1-week amnesia. And it's about this guy who has to befriend the girl every week. And it's about their slice of life.
Oh, so basically it's the guy's crushing on her and he asks her to be friends. But every week it's kind of like a Groundhog Day kind of thing. Like she just has no recollection of what happened the week prior.
And it's really like sad because the girl knows that she has amnesia because she's lived with it.
Okay, I was gonna say it's like if she keeps forgetting how
you know the Adam Sandler movie, which is like
50 First Dates?
Yeah, something like that, right? Like the person understands that they have this condition.
Yeah.
But the issue is, imagine if you have that 1 week amnesia, and then people come up to you and being like, yo, hey, and then you're like, who the fuck are you? It's like, yo, we hung out like 3 days ago. It's like, I don't remember you. Get the fuck away from me. But it was quite ingenious and very heartwarming how he and her managed to convince her that they're really good friends. And it's a very... I don't want to spoil it because...
I mean, I feel like you need to watch it to enjoy it, right?
And it's a very sweet story because if I remember, there's like subtext, romance subtext, but there isn't like straight up romance. Like it's just a girl who's really lonely and a guy that is just
trying to help, right?
Going out of his way to help a girl out who always resets her memory. And it's one of those shows that I always gravitate to because no one remembers it. Almost like everyone doesn't remember that such a show existed, but I love that show.
No, I think this is a good opportunity to talk about shows that like were definitely popular, but it's like for better or for worse, whether it's just because of time or because of other shows kind of taking the spotlight.
We're talking about Tokyo Ghoul, Norigami, Space Dandy, Ping Pong, right?
So,
all within that year.
But like 1 Week Friends, like do you think it deserves like some more credit? Like you think
absolutely.
Of course, the stats are fantastic, but again, these are probably stats that were logged at the time. Right? Like, I don't think that 300,000 members has grown ever since it came out. I think it's
at least not substantially, right?
It's hard. I mean, we'd have to use a Wayback Machine or yeah.
But I would argue, like, there's no way over 10 years, it grew like 200,000 members. I don't think so.
No.
I think it was one of those things where it just happened organically within that release, but it was overshadowed by all these other rightfully so hype shows.
I mean, like that season alone, right? We're talking about Ping Pong the Animation, Haikyuu, Stardust Crusaders, No Game No Life.
Like what can you do against those things?
Baby Steps also came out that year too.
The tennis one,
Dragon Ball Kai came out that year. That season, Fairy Tail was also like as much as people hate on it, dude. Like 7.65 a million members. Yeah. There is a show I kind of want to recommend, but it's kind of weird to recommend it because of how highly it's already scored. But I think it's just because the fact that it is an old classic, and it would be good to see more people talk about it and maybe even watch it. Because I have a feeling that a lot of people that listen to this, I've probably never watched it, but you've definitely watched it. Barakamon.
Yeah.
So I watched a couple episodes of it.
Okay.
It's okay. So it's about a young man, up-and-coming calligrapher. He's talented, but at the same time, he's got a personality complex. He's very snooty. He's a narcissist. He always thinks that, like, if you got criticism for him, his best response is to knock you out, like, physically. And then, of course, he has to suffer the repercussions of it in the nicest way possible. Instead of, like, being reprimanded or, like, being thrown in jail for the night, his dad, who runs, like, the calligraphy society in Tokyo, is like, you can fuck off to this tiny little town, and you can just spend time there and, collect your thoughts.
Cool your head down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked for me, so it should work for you.
And then that's essentially it. That's the punishment. He has to, be with his own thoughts and really kind of reflect on what the fuck he did. But him being the narcissist he is, he's just like, oh, fuck you. I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Also, to be fair, the reason why he got into this predicament was because he was criticized for not being
original.
Because
he's
was, like a robot in that sense, right?
You just make all this calligraphy to win awards, don't you?
All technique, no style, no soul, like that. So
it's kind of like when Scorsese made that comment about Marvel movies. Like these are just theme parks. You're there to enjoy the ride, and that's it. But if you really want to watch a movie, you should watch something else. That's the kind of criticism he got. He got the Marvel treatment, essentially.
Right, except in defense of Marvel movies, they're designed to be popcorn flicks, theme park rides, whereas
calligraphy
is supposed to be
cultural.
artistic, bold expressions, like passion.
And then to see that like your passion and your boldness is just deemed to be unoriginal and cookie cutter, like
that's so harsh,
yeah,
dude.
that really fucks up your confidence, right? And so the only thing you can do is to fuck shit up.
Or sock someone.
That was, I'm just gonna say, because it literally happens in the first minute. Like, I was watching this thinking this is just gonna be like some sort of peaceful guy going around and sharing his works of calligraphy. I did not imagine him being criticized, and then the first thing he does is he just clocks someone in the face. Like, I was just watching it, it's like, he's not gonna do that, is he? And he just straight up, he slow-moed it as well.
And okay, because it's like the first 5 minutes, right? He clocks someone that you should probably never do that to, ever.
He's the chairman of the Calligraphy Society.
Like, have a cane, I think?
Yes, he has a walking aid.
Yeah,
and
holy
he just
shit.
goes up there and just, like, cracks his jaw straight up. And everyone's just like, oh, you should stay away from him. Oh, you used to associate with him, then it means you're a ruffian, too. And it's like that kind of old classic, like lose your face, like, attitude in Asian culture.
Extremely Asian, yeah. And then it's like, oh, but your father is a highly respected calligrapher. So is you, technically. So, like, I will forgive you. But, like, bro, the fuck are you doing? That kind of thing. So he got exiled to an island. Okay.
It looks very pretty. Visually, it looks... I mean,
do you like the OP? Please tell me you like the OP. I'll lose my mind if you don't like... Okay,
I did.
Thank you.
I also love the characters in the show, too.
Oh, it's the best part.
Like, legitimately, like, I don't even think, like, comedy is a tag. Because it's as Yashike as can be.
Yeah.
But these motherfuckers are funny as shit.
So, without really going
I watched
too much...
I watched, like, 2 episodes. Maybe, like, one of the...
Has he drawn anything yet?
Basically, what happens in the first episode is he... clocks an old guy.
Right.
Let's not forget that. He legitimately assaulted somebody.
Like that's going to jail type shit.
And his punishment was, you're going to take a week-long vacation somewhere. Or however long he's going to be there.
It's way more than a week, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
You just go to this house that's, like, not, like, old and decrepit, but definitely a bit worn. The fact that they still have, like, pit toilets there, that part, like, fucked me up, too. Because it was like, I could never do that. I could never live in a house that had a pit toilet.
Or like an outhouse, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm pampered. I need running water, I
get you, man.
I need a proper toilet. And then, like, the people there, like, they start introducing themselves. They're like this random little kid that is, like, squatting in this house.
Yeah, because it's their secret base, man.
Yeah, and then there's, like, random high school girls that just run around. There's, like, oh, we were here before, but don't say anything. And then, like, the landlord is also, like...
The village chief that didn't show up until, like, the very end. It's like, oh, yeah, no problem, man. It's all good. I forgot about you. Yeah, well, sure.
And then later on, it's like, okay, I'll just start setting up. And then he opens the door, and the village chief is in there playing with the young kid that's squatting. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing in here? And he just throws them out every single time. And then they go swimming. Well, not really swimming. They just fall in the water and shit. And then that's what inspires him to start working on his next piece of calligraphy. Because
okay, so they do show, like, one of his works that he does on the island.
When he, like, legitimately just kind of, like, not so much loses his mind, but he just has this,
let's
like,
go.
Exactly.
Like his epiphany.
His anxiety is gone. He's now just like, you know what? It's just me against the world. It's just me in the brush. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And he just makes a mess out of his apartment. But, he also created something that was, deep and personal for him.
If you remember After Dark 1 for our top 10 anime series of all time.
Did you recommend Barakamon?
Barakamon was, if I remember, number 2.
It's good. It's really good. And the only reason why I wanted to highlight it here is because it's been 10 years. And yes, Kinema Citrus has gone on to do other things too, right? Like Shield Hero. But I just felt that, like, it's worth bringing back Barakamon, right? Because, again, there's only been one season. That's it. There's no other. There is a prequel, I suppose, but
oh yeah, the Haru-kun one. Don't watch it.
Handa-kun.
Yeah. Handa-kun. Don't watch it. It actually has not a lot to do with the ethos of Barakamon. Like I don't think it was that bad of a show, but
7.35, 3,000
it was a completely different show. That just somehow is because it's the main character but younger. But it actually has, like, it's almost like completely unrelated.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, just watch this one Cour, right? I would push for this one. I mean, is there any from that year that you're like, this was a good show but was super underrated, or maybe there's a show that like was already popular then and you just wanted to re-highlight?
Oh, I gave Barakamon 7.
Oh, but you know, I'm sure that your 7s back then are probably 8s now.
No, as in like my top 10. It was number 7.
Oh, okay. I thought for me you gave it a 7 out of 10.
No. Hell no. It's a 10 out of 10. It's a
that
10
impactful.
It is
because 10 out of 10s are personal for you.
It's probably one of the best slice of life I've ever seen in my. No, it is one of the best slice of life I've seen in my entire life.
But it's also like not a slice of life that immediately if you're talking to people comes up, right? At least like not people who are like diehard slice of life fans. I think like the fair weather fan, if you're talking about slice of lives, there's other series that come up.
Well, because I would argue Barakamon does Iyashike the best, but doesn't do slice of life the best. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if you're talking like slice of life, you got things like
I would say
Dragon
Silver Spoon is better than Barakamon from the slice of life department.
Yeah,
but in terms of just like how Honda, right? Is Honda the name?
Yeah,
the main character's name. He learns like to express himself, like art, like finding himself. Right. It really does invoke something in you. You know how people watch A Place Further Than the Universe?
Yeah.
And then have that desire to travel and venture outside into the unknown?
Yeah, I think
Barakamon does that for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah. But then like when you think like slice of life, I think people more think about things like, you know, like Eurocamp, Nanambiori.
Absolutely. More cutesy.
Natsume's Book of Friends.
Yep.
Like those things. So it's not to say that nobody knows Barakamon, but I think that, hey, you can't really have a slice of life conversation without talking about Barakamon.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to go deeper and talk about Iyashike.
Yeah.
Because like Iyashike, like outside of Mushishi, I don't think many people talk about much else.
Now,
I mean, maybe Usagi drop, but
now, Will, we won't have another opportunity for a while to gush about Cross Ange, so let's kind of do that right now. Please.
Cross Ange is possibly the
best
bombastic, crazy show that does not deserve to be good, but for some reason it's just amazing.
It's the best worst show I've ever seen. I cannot understand.
You have mechas, you have magic, you have like a female-run society that ostracizes men, so you have like a complete like gender role swap. You have dragons. You have musicals, and you also have mechas that are powered by these musicals. You have gore. There's like some real fucked up shit in there.
And you have a villain.
Oh, and of course, a lot of fan service too. Yes.
But do you remember the villain's name, Will?
I remember it being
Embryo.
Embryo, yeah.
Like, what kind of villain name is fucking Embryo, bro?
Dude.
And that doesn't really spoil anything, actually. But that's how absurd the thing is.
The character names were amazing. I mean,
Tusk. I remember Tusk.
Yeah, Tusk. You had
I fucking hate Tusk.
You had Salamandine. You had Hildegard Schiegevold.
She's MVP for me, man.
I love Hilda.
I remember our personal character arc of appreciating her because she was like the bitch.
Yes.
And then
I mean, it didn't help that she had red hair as well.
Oh, yeah, doesn't help. And then she went through her arc, and then at the end of the day, I think, without going too much into spoilers, she kind of got the short end of the stick at the very end of the show, but was like my MVP personally. I think like the show is fucking fantastic, and it's so hard to convey how cheesy, dumb, amazing it is. And I think, like, what did we give it in the end?
I gave it an 8.
Did I give it a 9? I think I might have gave it a 9.
I gave it an 8 because I also had to be real.
Oh, I gave it an 8. I did give it an 8.
I had to be real with it because there was a lot of shit that was like also really terrible in this.
And I think there was a section of the anime, because it's 25 episodes, where it was really boring. Mm-hmm. I think the beginning, like the first like 10 episodes was great.
Okay, I was just gonna say this: any episode with Tusk in it was boring.
Yeah, it was really bad. Like, we were super pissed.
I hated Tusk.
Yeah,
because I understand like the gender role swaps and all that, but you also then just relegated Tusk to being like a useless sumbitch.
And I think the whole premise of females represented in the anime only to be like romance or...
That's the thing. I hated the introduction of Tusk because not only was he useless, but his main role as a character was to save the damsel in distress, when clearly there was no damsel in distress.
Yep.
Like Ange, Hilda, Chris, Jill, everybody was like more than capable of just telling this man to shut the fuck up.
A frying pan?
Yes.
There was a frying pan that was used towards the end of the series that is so god-awful plot armor that I think both of us paused the show and just clapped on Discord. I don't know if you remember.
That was a really fun watch-along.
It was great. It was, like, full of shock and awe. Like, I don't know what the hell we're watching it, but I guess we're watching it, that type of thing.
Would you say cult favorite?
100% cult favorite.
I mean, 200,000 members.
It's like The Room, you know, that kind of thing, where it's
okay, yeah.
or except I would argue Cross Ange is better.
Okay, yeah, no, it's better, but like that's because the room is more infamous.
Yes,
because of how terrible it is.
But I would say Cross Ange has that kind of vibe of it is so bad or so lame or cringe that it kind of loops into itself and does the opposite effect.
I think it's also just the fact that like it's done by Sunrise and like it has all those tropes in there that part of it is just the fact
it's like, why do they have mechs? Why do they need to sing? Oh, I guess Macross. I guess
it's Sunrise. You're gonna have to have some mechs.
Sure.
In there.
Yeah. Fuck it.
I think it's just there's partially like them being self-aware. Right, I don't think that like they seriously thought this was going to be like amazing. They just said, "Hey, look, we have all this IP, we have all this shit that we've done in the past. We know what we're doing in terms of doing a mech. Why don't we just throw big boob bitches who know how to sing and also some dragons?"
Listen. If I'm like the creator of Cross Ange or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, dude, also like the amount of sexual tension there was between the characters. I mean, and there was also legitimately like a harem of sorts going on too. It was,
Orange is the New Black type shit. Yeah,
it was insane.
But it was done well.
It was really insane. I loved it.
Also, the gore is like fucking crazy, bro.
Dude,
like
I think like
no hold bars.
Yeah, the first time we saw like an instance of gore was also one of the most fucked up things we've seen, and that was just like the second or third episode.
Yeah, like it wasn't like Parasite, the maximum level of like fucked upness, or Elfen Lied. It was just like shocking, right? Like I wouldn't say it was grotesque, but it was like, what the fuck was that?
I remember a particular scene which was a strip search and probing.
Yeah, that was in the very beginning.
That was
when she arrives at the island for the first time.
That was also just like, is this what we're watching? Holy fuck.
I was like, okay, all right. Like, what is this?
And just to be clear, for people who think we're watching this because it's like a horn dog show, no. That scene was not cool. That was really fucked up.
It was extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it was by design uncomfortable because that's the whole point. But, like, it sounds like we're going crazy because it's one of those things where you will probably be very convinced and know exactly what we're talking about when you consume it.
Yeah.
But from the outside, you will think like we're two wackos. And I actually don't blame you for it because that's how it happened to me too. I forgot how we even watched Cross Ange. I think we Googled it and saying like best worst show ever.
Yeah, we were looking for the room of anime.
Yeah.
And that's what we came up with.
Because I think that Ghost Stories with the dub and stuff like that came up and things like that. So, yeah, Cross Ange is one of those shows that is, like, phenomenal, but it's also one of the worst, best shows I've ever seen. It's so accurate of a description.
It was a really fun time. I think that, like, and it's not bad in the sense, like, it's, like, Poopa or X-Arm.
Or like Mars of Destruction, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not like that kind of bad. It's just that it's so poorly written in the sense that like the whole plot doesn't make any sense. The characters are all really fucked up.
It sounds kind of up its own ass, but it also knows it. So it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
The musical singing part is definitely cocky as fuck because there's like no need to have a musical to power your mechas, but here we are.
But I guess, as I said, maybe they watch Macross and it's like, we need that.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. It needs to transform into a jet. Sure.
Who would have thought that when we picked 2014 as a year to talk about for back in my day, that Cross Ange would be a subject of conversation again?
Oh, no, I knew that right away when we saw it.
Yeah, I think like we looked up like, oh, what happened in 2014? You're like, Cross Ange came out that year.
Like, we cannot not talk about it, right? So we had to.
That's a show, honestly, that I feel like if I was to rewatch it, I would still enjoy it as much as I did the first time.
The problem is, like, you can't
wouldn't
enjoy it a second time like we enjoyed it the first time.
Yeah,
I mean, you can say that about a lot of shows, but
you would be at least be able to relive like the stupid like singing parts. You would be able to see like the frying pan again.
It just won't hit the same when you don't expect it, right? Because you don't know.
But you know that it's going to be good regardless. It just won't be as amazing. But like, as far as like a rewatch goes, I would be completely okay with it. Just to remember like why I loved it, and whether or not a second viewing makes me like it less now that I've seen the cracks and everything.
I also want to shout out Unlimited Blade Works because yes, it's Fate Stay Night. Yes, it is the most famous property in the pantheon of anime, manga, light novel,
but it was never like that
visual
before.
Novel, quote unquote H game, point and click.
It wasn't a Eroge for sure.
And don't forget, part one. What's part one called?
Just called Fate Stay Night.
Done by Studio Dean. Like when I kill people, they die or something. What was it?
Yeah.
Like it was the most horrendous season 1 ever. And then Unlimited Blade Work comes out by UFO Table. To me, that was the first UFO Table production that I watched.
Yeah, we then started watching other stuff like Garden of Sinners and whatnot way later.
No, but I didn't watch Unlimited Blade Works with you.
Yeah, no, I watched it.
But we watched Garden of Sinners together, like on Discord and shit. And that was like, Garden of Sinners was like, whew, that was
amazing. 10 out of 10.
Now, if you want to talk about Elfen Lied grotesque fucked up, that's Garden of Sinners.
Yeah.
Okay?
If you want like 8-9 movies of it, that's Garden of Sinners.
Can you, do you remember Spiral Paradox?
Yes.
Part 5. The best anime movie I've seen of all time, probably.
The best use of an elevator.
The most craziest use of an elevator.
But I would agree in terms of like giving a bit of a shout out. Not to say like people have to go and watch Unlimited Blade Works, because you probably have, but it was what brought the series back. Because all we had was 2006 Studio Dean. As much as I liked it back then, it was also because I had no choice. You know, like that was literally it. If you wanted to watch Fate Stay Night, that's it. Or you imported the game and had some sort of translation scan.
And I think Fate Stay Night at that moment in time was one of those things that was like, oh, dude, this is like rocking the socks off in Japan. Like, this is like, people were so desperate to play this game or know more about the lore of Type Moon and stuff that they have fan translation packs that might be a virus, might not be a virus. Type
actually,
shit.
To be fair, Fate Zero came out before Unlimited Blade Works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it actually did. Yeah, season 1 actually came out in 2011.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
I've still not watched Fate Zero.
That could be a
I mean, that is a problem, but yeah,
that is not. Yeah, oh my god, Fate Zero was amazing. But I would still say that if it came to it, because I know more about the actual Fate story rather than like the prequel. And
we should also watch Heaven's Feel, man. Like we, both of us have not even gone around to that yet.
It's 3 movies though, man.
Yeah, it is a trilogy of movies, but technically, like, we'll get around to it, right?
I mean, I guess we'll also get around to watching Fate Strange Fake as well.
Well, yeah, whenever that comes out, right?
A1 Pictures, right?
Yeah. I don't think they announced like a release date yet, other than episode 0. Yeah, that was pretty dope, to be fair.
That was a really good like pre-release episode. I really like that one. Whispers of the Dawn is what it was called. Yeah. Anything else that's like worth mentioning? I think like the usual suspects. I did watch a little bit of Nisekoi. I did like that. What else was there? I actually wanted to get around to watching D-Frag. The only reason why I didn't watch it was because I got tired. And I went to sleep.
I think D-Frag is one of those shows that, is it a must-watch when you think of comedy? No, it's not a must-watch. But it's also very meme-tastic and very stupid. But not in an Aho girl stupid. But like, I am trying to button up my sweatshirt like with a zipper, and it is too tight because my boobs are too big, and then it shoots like a bullet and quote unquote kills someone.
Any love for Engaged the Unidentified?
It was good. That's it. Like it was fine show, but it wasn't like.
I think the main thing that people know about it as much as for me as well is the meme of the girl dancing.
The girl dancing in front of the TV. Yeah.
That's
to be fair, that scene pretty dope.
Yep. But outside of that, like the rest of the show is okay. I mean,
did you like do we like Log Horizon 2? Because we watched that together. Did you really like Log Horizon? Because I remember us watching it.
I'll be honest, as much as it's popular, because Log Horizon itself,
I think we liked 1 and 2 kind of. That's why we didn't watch 3.
Because it just felt like the same thing.
The first one was actually pretty good.
That's what I mean, though. It's like you've already watched Log Horizon, so I want to see more, but not of the same. I just want to see more of the story. And it just felt like there wasn't anything that discerned Log Horizon 2 from 1. And that's what stopped us from going on to Log Horizon 3. And hence why we haven't heard anything else from Log Horizon recently.
I think they also, if I remember, Log Horizon focused not really on the main group of characters that we known and loved and tried to expand the cast.
Yeah.
But we really hated some of the new cast that they decided to spend an ungodly amount of time on.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny that Black Butler was in summer 2014 and Black Butler
Book of Circus, yeah. I think that was the second season.
And this season right now for spring 2024 has the school arc, public school arc or whatever, right? So
actually, to be fair, the original Black Butler, the first season came out 2008, so it was like 6 years for any Black Butler. But like Black Butler is like a favorite for a lot of people. And I haven't watched a single episode. The only reason why I knew much about Black Butler was because C-Dog VA got famous off of doing Black Butler impressions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was like, basically he started off like by doing like because I mean he's got that deep voice.
Is that why he had that VA, just like how Joey had Anime Man and then now couldn't let it go because that's his name now.
C-Dog voice actor.
Yep.
But yeah, he was known to be doing a lot of Black Butler impressions.
I didn't know that.
And he got super popular off that. But after like doing it for like 3-4 years, he started transitioning to other stuff because he just didn't want to be known as the Black Butler
VA guy.
The Black Butler guy.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of his content was just that. And now he doesn't really even talk much about anime. He just goes around like, exploring parts of Japan. So he's living his dream now.
And talking about how everyone has really bad taste, right? Along with 2 other of his friends, right?
Yes. What else came out that year that I think is worth mentioning?
I mean, when you look at one whole year.
Oh, Fritz Grisaya came out that year.
Yeah.
I mean, you enjoyed it, quote unquote.
I did enjoy it, but it was more of a guilty pleasure than a recommendation because I think it's one of those shows where when it was based on a visual novel, you should probably play the visual novel. It's one of those.
Okay.
Just because of how things branch off, how it's impossible to cover that much story or condense it into like a cur. It's really hard. So I heard that the visual novel is way better. So, and I believe it based on what was cut and what was left in. But it was pretty good.
I mean, visual novels as they go, it's like most of the time if you loved playing the visual novel, you would probably not enjoy how it gets adapted because again, it's the routes you choose.
Yeah, it's like 50 hours or 100 hours worth of content condensed. Like, how are you even going to do that? What is the real canon ending? Can you even do that?
Oh, wow. That year was also the year that Yami Shibai came out with the second episode, the second season.
Jesus Christ. That was like, what? They're on like 11 or 15 now?
So many. The first one actually came out the year before in 2013. Still done by Ilka.
So, there is another show, but it's a season 2.
That's fine.
But
it just gives more, like, pressure to people checking out the first season.
8-Bit made a show in summer of 2014.
Wait, 8-Bit's that old?
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately only heard of 8-Bit when they did Blue Lock.
They made an anime, season 2, based on a manga of the same name for 2 cours called Encouragement of Climb, the second season.
I vaguely remember that.
And I don't know how else to explain it other than it's a slice of life about girls hiking.
Yep.
And how it is about lifting each other up as they hike and climb. And it is a very surreal, philosophical, fluffy experience.
It's not very highly rated. But
the first season?
Yeah.
Have you checked out the other seasons though?
Yeah,
that's the interesting part.
I need to see. So
what is season 1?
6.83. The special came out and it was a 6.74. Second season was 7.56.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And then it just it kind of climbs.
There's a third season for it as well. Holy shit! There's that much.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Third season is a 7.6.
And then I think some of the specials, but the specials are not great.
Oh, I remember seeing Next Summit because we were talking about stuff for fall 2022. Wow, that was 2 years ago. Fuck.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
It's a really good.
So it had a rough start for sure, but it
Yeah.
somehow managed to beat expectations and
It climbed up. Yeah.
literally climbed up.
I'm not the first nor the last to make
I think
that
I
pun.
remember like talking about this and seeing like this is essentially just Eurocamp, right? And you're like, well,
You're no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, that kind of thing.
damn, there's like 4 whole seasons of it. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely worth a watch.
And season 2 is 2 cours, by the way. How the fuck does that work?
It's weird though because like the manga source is only a flat 7, so like not popular at all. Only 1,923 members. Like that puts it close. That's like popularity 9,346. But I mean, if the second, third, and fourth seasons are above a 7.5, after starting off at a 6.83,
Like that kind of is rare, right? Like that kind of jump. And if you look at the source score and everything and the reception, even I was surprised.
I mean, adventurous slice of life, cute girls doing cute things, Iyashike. And there were short episodes too. They were like 13-minute episodes.
Yep.
Well, I mean, season 3 was short. Season 2 is also 13 minutes.
Yep.
Season 1 is... Oh, that may explain why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was essentially a compilation of... Like, overall, there's not even 40 minutes of content.
Yeah.
For all of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
That might explain why.
And I think one of the later seasons, there are like photographs involved or something like that. That's just like really heartwarming. Or like memories and stuff. It's
Okay.
It's a random show in terms of like, where did that come from?
Okay.
But
So now that you say that then, right? It's actually not that hard to recommend it because if season 1 was only like 3 minutes for 12 episodes, that's a very easy watch.
Yeah.
Just to get up to speed and then go into season 2, which is like vastly like superior in terms of like its score.
So I did the unfortunate thing of watching season 2 first.
Okay.
It was really weird. I don't know why. Maybe like I couldn't get my hands on season 1 or something, or like I just forgot, or I don't know.
One reason or another, you just watch season 2 first.
Yeah. And it's not the worst thing, but as you said, it's so easy to catch up. You might as well start there first and know that it actually gets way better. It can only go up. But if we go back down to ground zero, let's talk about Terra Resonance, bro.
Did you watch it?
We watched it. We did it for our AD.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for the... Yeah, I remember now.
I think we had like a really big debate about it.
I wasn't sure if I liked it. I know it's insanely popular. 1.2
I liked
million.
it more than you,
Yeah,
for sure.
You definitely liked it more than me. I gave it a 7.
I gave it an 8. But like we had like I wouldn't say I had an argument, but because I remember when I think back, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember us talking about like the writer is the main character can only be as smart as the writer.
Yeah.
And when your writer is not as smart of a writer, it's not great.
I think it was just the fact that like these were works by Watanabe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we had talked about
that's 89 that we did. Yeah.
So we had talked about Cowboy Bebop, Kids on the Slope. We also talked about Space Dandy, Samurai Champloo.
I mean, our after the break of 89 was just Samurai Champloo versus Cowboy Bebop. Take your pick right now.
That was basically it. Yeah. So I didn't hate Terran Resonance. I think it's just, I don't know. I wasn't in the right place at the right time to enjoy that show. I think it was just because the fact that like we had just thought about like watching things like Kids on the Slope and Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop.
It's definitely a far cry compared to his other works.
And I think also because whenever you think about Watanabe, the most important part of his productions is the music. So when we talk like Space Dandy, when we talk about Bebop, Bebop itself is like genre music, right? Samurai Champloo with the hip hop, right? Mm-hmm. Jazz for Kids on the Slope, weird EDM for Space Dandy, and then it was kind of like weird Nordic metal, like hard rock for Terran Resonance. I don't know. I didn't really
because it was a modern take, and
and
it was. Is it a disaster movie? Is it a terrorist movie? Is it why you call each other number?
Yeah.
What is this? Is it up its own ass, or is it like really deep? Am I 14 and this is deep type shit, or am I buying into the narrative?
Yeah. So it was the inspiration for the music was the Icelandic band Sigur Rós. They do like
Sugar Rios, is it called?
Sugar Rós. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, they're a post rock band. They actually played in Hong Kong a couple years ago at Clock and Flap. I was okay with it. But yeah, that was probably like one of my main points of criticism, which I felt that the music was not that great. It was still composed by Yoko Kanno, right? So, they've done amazing work. Like she's worked on literally everything that is like Watanabe, like Bebop. They've also done Standalone Complex, Wolf's Rain, Darker Than Black.
I think the issue or the lack thereof with 2014 is that there is so much you can say about so many shows, whether it is impactful, whether it is popular, whether it is like risque, whether it is like it holds up and stands the test of time. I would argue that 2014 is one of those years where it was crazy good no matter where you strike at.
Yeah.
That any given other year, you might only get a third or half that. And this is 2014 where winter started with only 1/8. Granted, it was Silver Spoon Season 2.
Yeah.
But that's how it started. Like, that's absurd.
If you actually just sort of look in terms of like the popularity of shows for that season, you had Noragami with 2.2 million. You had Nisekoi with 1.2 million. You had one of the Chinibyo sequels that had like 744,000.
So maybe you are right in that 2014 was like this renaissance of a lot of fans like acknowledge that all of these shows that year, 2014, is full of classics.
Yeah.
Because again, it will be too time consuming and tedious to do the math. But if you were to calculate all the fans, I would argue that by far there is an absurd amount of fans for a lot of these shows this 2014 year.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe like winter was not the best because there was not that many good shows, but
what about popularity though? That's the thing.
Yeah, no, it's way better in spring because you had No Good No Life with 2.4 million, Haikyuu with 2 million, Stardust Crusaders with 1.2, Irregular Magic High School 1.1, Fairy Tail 1 million, Black Bullet 924,000. Ping Pong the Animation had 400,000.
Like, I don't think what shows nowadays, like maybe the past couple of years, has broken the 1 million.
Actually, if you think about it, right? Frieren, the number one show of all time right now,
Yeah.
not even 800,000.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
right?
And sure, some of it probably has built up over time because then people ask, like, what do I need to watch? Oh, you should watch these shows. Because, to be fair, a lot of shows in 2014, I would argue, is like good jumping off points. That has modern sensibilities and themes and the look.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, this is what we consider modern ass anime that is not 4x3. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like a phenomenal, crazy year for everything to kind of kickstart itself.
I think a lot of like shows were like trying to essentially establish an identity, where it was looking into.
I mean, Mappa too was establishing the identity.
Yeah. Then you had shows that like were either more sort of like really going into the Iyashike, going into the slice of life. Some that were like really pushing like the etchiness. Some that was just I don't know how to describe Cross Ange, for example.
It's undescribable.
Yeah, you have to make the tears flow again with Your Lie in April. You had to really get down and dirty with some calligraphy and Barakamon. You just wanted some real educational shit and learn how anime is made in Shirabaku.
It's so crazy that all happened in a year.
Or maybe you didn't realize you liked volleyball with Haikyuu.
The thing is, a lot of those are not sequels.
Yeah.
Okay, Silver Spoon, yeah, of course, sequel. Mushishi is a sequel.
Yeah. But then what was it? Haikyuu just aired. Parasite the Maxim, only one season.
No Game, No Life. Sure, JoJo, yes, it is a sequel. I would guess Initial D, Final Stage, is a sequel, right? But there's so many other shows that are non-sequels, whereas...
No Game, No Life.
Yep, whereas nowadays...
Irregular Adjunct High School.
What was it? Like, Spring 2024 now? Kaiju number 8 and Spice and Wolf is the only... And Spice and Wolf technically is a remake, so I would consider it like a semi-sequel, right?
Yeah.
Kaiju number 8 is quote-unquote the only first original show among like the pantheon of sequels and 8s within the 8s category.
Yeah. Sign Euphonium 3, Konosuba 3,
Yuru Camp 3,
Season 2 Part 2, what you want to call it for Mushoku Tensei.
Yep.
Whatever season you want to call for Demon Slayer.
Then is Kaiju number 8.
Well, then you also have like the originals of Jellyfish and
correct.
Yeah. But those kind of like creeped out of nowhere.
Yeah, but still, right?
Data
like,
Live 5 as well. Yeah.
All of those are sequels.
Slime Isekai 3.
Yeah. How many sequels are there in like the top echelons?
Actually, now if you look at it now too, right? Like My Hero Academia season 7, Dukin is Made season 3. There were a lot of sequels for this season.
I mean, sequels always are the ones that has more hype and more acclaim because they built on. But in 2014, I would argue there was more popularity, and all of those shows that are now sequels and are like mainstays. Back then, it was like that was the first season of Haikyuu. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, before it was legitimately, it's like, yo, did you watch Black Butler? Did you watch Parasite? Did you watch No Game No Life? Did you watch do you watch Tokyo Ghoul? Did you watch Noragami? Now it's more like,
I mean, Tokyo Ghoul first season came out 2014.
Yeah. And now it's more like, yo, are you catching up on that Mushoku Tensei? You catching up on that Konosuba? You catching up on that Eurocamp? You got around to watching those movies for San Euphonium so you can watch season 3, that kind of thing. Hey, Hashira training arc, man. You gotta get on that Demon Slayer train. So it's become more like the usual suspects. You know what's going to be coming up, and therefore you wouldn't be surprised whether an anime works or it doesn't. Whereas back then, it's like there was no guarantee that Haikyuu was going to be amazing. There was no guarantee that Noragami would be able to have that kind of legacy.
I would argue that you have pedigree from the manga.
I suppose, yeah.
But Ping Pong, anime original. I think Tower and Resonance is an anime original.
Yeah.
Cross Ange is an anime original, but sure, it's inspiration from Gundam, right? But still, it's technically an anime original. There's a lot of anime originals now like back then. I mean, that was one of like our shticks when we talked about that episode on anime originals. Like, it used to be a commonplace thing to have anime originals, whereas nowadays it's like not safe because it's a risky bet. Which,
I mean, to be fair, Parasite was also a bit of a risky bet because the manga came out in the 80s and they decided to do like an adaptation like 30 years later.
Like, how does that work out? But it clearly did. And
Shirabaku was an original.
Yep.
Sailor Moon Crystal was also like...
I mean, that's a really ballsy big deal. I would argue one of the biggest news stories of that year.
Because, I mean, Sailor Moon was pretty much dead in the water. Like, by the time it was, like, 2005, like, that year, like, the early 2000s, that was it. Like, you just had the old school Sailor Moon, and then you had the whole, like, licensing debacle of it trying to get a live action, but the producers were like, no, fuck that, let's just keep it as this. And then the big production committee were like, no, we're going to do this. If you're not going to do it, then we'll just hold it in, like, we'll just keep it in purgatory forever.
Right.
And then luckily, Sailor Moon Crystal came out.
And to be fair, Sailor Moon Crystal is phenomenal in comparison to the OG series while retaining what made the OG series fantastic. It's like, I wouldn't say, for example, Fullmetal Alchemist is a bad show, but clearly Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is the superior show of the two. And I would say that just as much for Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal. It's like, I acknowledge the OG series, but Crystal is better because it's more condensed, it's more thought out, it trimmed the fat, just like how Brotherhood is like...
We have everything at our disposal now. Now let's actually...
Or the mistakes that we made in the OG series. Oh, Hunter x Hunter, we kind of fucked up. So let's just do the 2011 one and, like, don't fuck up the second time.
I mean, it was still running for some reason. Like, there were a lot of episodes. There was like 300 episodes or something like that.
So Sailor Moon Crystal is that for, you know, a lot of shoujo magical girl fans. So it's like a huge deal because...
Oh, sorry. No, 148 episodes. It's 300 plus chapters is what I meant to say.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But, like, how many remakes can you remember on the top of your head that is catered to a more female demographic has that kind of treatment?
Not just that, too, but, like, legitimately franchise saving.
Yeah.
Because Sailor Moon was good as dead in the 2000s.
No. Yes, and also it was like, it was like a legacy relic thing. Like, no one will forget it.
Yeah.
But it's like lost in time from a historical standpoint.
And you just remember, Sailor Moon, yeah, it was cool. But now it's more like people still, like, dress up as, you know, pretty girl Sailor Moons. You know, like, you cannot, like, talk about anime without talking about Sailor Moon.
Mm-hmm. And now there's, like, the definitive version, right?
Yeah.
And I think Netflix even had, like, several movies, like, way after the fact that is like, oh, this is like the Crystal story, but progressed.
Yeah. Wow. 2014 was a wild year. I'm glad that we landed on this year to talk about anime because not only were there a lot of bangers, but there was also like a lot of very pivotal moments in anime history that had that shit not happened, we wouldn't be talking about Sailor Moon now. We would never be talking about Parasite the Maxim because all we would have is the manga. We would not have the memes of Tokyo Ghoul or the vitriol that came out of it. And
we also would not get that Korean live action of Parasite.
Yeah.
I would argue that.
Very
good. We
good.
wouldn't get the meme of was it?
Angishi Identified?
Yep.
Yep. Dancing girl. JoJo memes. Definitely, you had some from like parts 1 and part 2, but a lot of them came out from like Stardust Crusaders and onwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? The most memorable characters came from part 3.
Although the most important character of Lisa is in part 2. I'm just saying. Listen, just saying. But yeah, 2014 is a banger of a year.
So where do we go from here when we start doing
Only
Back in My
down,
Day?
boy.
We need to find a good year to talk about. We'll do a little bit of research.
Well, it's kind of hard because I feel like
we need to check on availability, right? We need to check on like what actually was pivotal in that year and not just talk about good shows. Because
listen,
yeah,
and when I mean by listen, I mean like to the listeners, right? 2014 is a very unique year because clearly we have spent so much about just the shows.
Yeah.
We didn't really go too much. We did a little bit into like the news or like certain trends, but the huge majority of it was spent gushing or recommending shows.
Yeah, I would argue that a lot of people that fell in love with anime probably started with one of these.
And I would argue that other years will not be as kind as to offer us so much to gush about and to choose from just like an anime perspective.
Yeah.
Because this is like almost like a unicorn year.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget this year was also when like One Piece and Naruto were still running, and you still had these bangers come out too, right? They had odds stacked up against them. So, 2014, we salute you. Thank you very much for all the wonderful anime you brought us, and to all listeners too. Don't just look into what's coming up for upcoming seasons. Yes, we do seasonal reviews. That's part of our job on this podcast. But at the same time...
And we do enjoy it.
Yeah, but don't forget that, just because something came out in 2014 doesn't mean it's old as shit. In fact, like a lot of the stuff will probably feel like fresh material for you. Because I would say that some of the writing, some of the plots, some of the characters are so unique that you don't necessarily need to tie them down to what year it came out. Just enjoy what it is.
I mean, that's why anime, among many mediums, is timeless to a certain extent, right? Like,
yeah.
I think we talked about it for one of our BPs, like, okay, minus, like, for example, a 4:3 ratio or something, right? Where it's very clear that it is more vintage, old school, ancient in terms of look and aesthetics, or like how a character is drawn. Like, back then, you can tell that there are certain trends, like it looks blocky and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But 2014, if you look at any given anime that is blown up HD remaster or just looks exactly as it was in 2014, you wouldn't know it was 10 years ago.
I mean, when you think about the first volleyball match in Haikyuu, when you think about the first musical number in Your Lie in April, when you think about the first bite in Tokyo Ghoul, you think about...
Oh, the hamburger?
Yeah. You also think about, Gilgamesh from Unlimited Blade Works.
Mm-hmm. You think about ping pong.
Dude. You think about the games from No Game No Life. Holy fuck.
The unique aesthetics and just how actually modern anime looked modern then and modern now.
Yeah. So, like, don't have your biases in trying to keep up with the latest and greatest. There's always going to be gems that, can be found. In fact, I wouldn't even say these are gems. These are legitimate mainstays in anime history. Right? You just know Haikyuu. You just know Sword Art Online Season 2 for how bad it is. But you also just know Your Lie in April, Unlimited Blade Works, No Game No Life, Parasite the Maxim. The list goes on, man. And stuff that you talked about too, like the climbing one, Encouragement to Climb.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Like when
1 Week Friends.
When we do like back in my day too, the luxury of being able to spitball about all these shows won't be given to you and won't be given to us. And that is both a blessing and a curse, but that is why we look back on it. And that's why we like remember not only what we have now because it's already in the past, but like, bro, you can easily access it. Thank God for licensing for some of those things. Rest in peace, planets, due to licensing hell. I will never forget planets. Fucking goddamn it, guys.
Yep. Rest in peace, Technolize as well. That's one that we've wanted to talk about, but unless you want to put up with the dub on Amazon Prime.
I don't even know like how we would be able to watch it in like non-English dub. Like we would have to pay like what, $400 US and actually have to get a DVD player.
Or you would legitimately have to find like the old school fucking pirates.
That's insane, bro.
Like that. But that's how anime was watched. Like in the 2000s, there was no Netflix, there was no Crunchyroll, right? There was no simulcast. You had to essentially sail the high seas and find.
Look,
anime.
we're not saying, we're not condoning such things.
We can say this though because that's how Crunchyroll started. Like that legitimately. Like if it weren't for piracy, people wouldn't have been able to come across anime and it wouldn't be this popular. Now,
it's a
of course,
double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely now like a lot more like legal to watch
and accessible.
Yeah,
because back then you couldn't. So it's like, well, either you didn't do it, or that's the only way you had to.
Yeah, we should be thankful as well that these anime series were so popular back then that, like, despite not having a whole lot of streaming services to use in 2014, that, you know, they are still available to watch in 2024. So go ahead and watch Akame ga Kill. Go ahead and watch Tokyo Ghoul. Go ahead and watch Your Lie in April. Go ahead and watch...
Do you like Norigami? Because I actually didn't really like it.
I liked it enough.
I don't want to end on that note, but I felt the need to say that I thought Norigami was very mid, okay?
No, fair. I mean, like, it only had a 7.95.
I just thought it was like, I don't get why everyone really likes the show.
It's because of the OP.
It's a very good OP.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, that's also why I like Tokyo Ghoul, because, I mean... And
I fucking hate that shit.
The same reason you hate that shit, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Will, any parting thoughts for 2014 before we put it to rest?
Dude, everyone just go and watch some good old 2014 stuff. I can guarantee you that a lot of it is probably better than what is coming out, what's come out in the last year. That's not a sequel, by the way. Right? So of course, I'm not shitting on, like, your My Hero Academias or your Konosubas or even your Demon Slayers. I'm just saying that a lot of original content, a lot of, like, new content that came out then would definitely hold a light to what you have been watching over the last year.
I think also one thing that I mean, is there anything else you want to mention?
I'm good, yeah.
I will say that an extremely positive thing that could come out of watching a show that has already been so old, so to speak, is first of all, you can binge it, so it's readily available. The second thing is, if you are, you know, like the only weeb within a certain radius, there will be plenty, and I mean plenty, of discourse all over about a show that has, like, you know, like, you can go on Reddit and be like, oh, what did they feel about Barakamon? You can literally just, you won't be able to engage live, you know, like real time, but you can kind of see what other people think, and you have hindsight now. So you can kind of be like, oh, wow, they'll never make a No Game, No Life. Well, guess what? They did. It was a movie. But who would have thunk, right? That kind of thing. So it's kind of funny and interesting to see when things are isolated in a moment in time and people say these things or didn't have hindsight. It's kind of cool to see something, you know, in a, like, frozen in time and then revisit it.
We could be sitting here, you know, 10 years in the future and looking back on things like Dangers in My Heart the same way.
Maybe.
Yeah, right? Like, that's the crazy thing, too. Like, of course, everything is very much like hindsight, right? But, hey, you never know, man. There's going to be some real bangers that come out this year that we might not even talk about until, like, 2034.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just the way things go.
So without further ado, time to wrap up the show.
Yeah. We'd like to thank everyone for listening to two dumbasses rant about anime in like 10 years ago. If you want to leave us a review, we appreciate that. If not, it's all good. You can always contact us using our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word, using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word, or through our GAP Discord. Invite link is in the show description. We have a website. We encourage you to check it out. www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Married to the Light by Omie. Our break music is Green Summer Waves by Kyo. And our outro music is Weeping by Cushy. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform of choice. And Epidemic Sound provides all of our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can always sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply. So what do you think of, like, this format, Will?
I think it's definitely an interesting one to go forward with. We just have to be a bit more, like, on the research
like
side.
Like, right?
Like, honestly, like, we just got really lucky with 2014. Really lucky. And so it's like, it's not as simple as, oh, what happened in 2004? Why don't we go back 2 decades? Or why don't we go back even further than that? Because, like you said, right, it comes down to what's available and also whether that year is worth talking about rather than just talking about good shows. Because we do that enough already, right?
I cannot emphasize enough that Will randomly chose 2014 and it just so happens to have all of this stuff.
I just said, let's just go back 10 years and make it easy. And then we looked at the list. We're like, fuck, dude, this is a good year.
Because, I mean, you and I both know that if we take any other year, even within like this time frame, it wouldn't be as stacked as 2014. It's just impossible.
No.
So we have to figure out some other way to like...
We'll definitely take our time trying to figure out how we're going to do the Back in My Day series. I like to think it's a good start, but... We'll see where we go.
Yeah.
Until then, thanks for listening to this. Go ahead and watch some old-ass anime, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.